Hi, welcome back to Girl with a Head in a Book. Now I know it's been a really long time since I last booktubed, but when I saw the Harry Potter book tag I decided that I just couldn't resist. So thanks go to Kirsty Books because it was her video which I saw first of all. And I've been meaning for years to write a post about what I think about Harry Potter and the man with the lightning scar. And I think this tag covers most of what I would have wanted to write, so here goes. So question number 1, what is your favourite book in the series? Now for me this one's easy. Prisoner of Azkaban, book number 3. And there's lots of reasons. I mean, first of all, I think that the first 3 books are concise in a way that the final 4 are not. And I don't even blame J.K. Rowling for this, but I think as the whole fandom thing got so crazy, she was put under so much pressure to produce that she wasn't given time to edit. And I don't even think it's that much of a problem for the final 2 books, but for Goblet of Fire and Order of the Phoenix, it was definitely a factor. And I mean, really, genuinely, Half-Blood Prince is my runner-up favourite because I think that it feels like a real return to form, and there's still lots of really funny things like with the Felix Felicis and the Slug Club and Ron's romantic travails. But yeah, I still think that Prisoner of Azkaban just feels a bit tighter as a book, and again, it's got a lot of it feels lighter than the rest of the series, and I get why because everything that went on, but it's very witty, like the way it introduces Marauder's Map and the whole thing where it insults Professor Snape. I just thought that was hysterically funny when I first read it, and I still do. So yeah, there's things like that. Plus, I like the way it works as a standalone piece. Voldemort sort of takes a bit of a backseat compared to the rest of the series. And I'm not saying, I mean, obviously Voldemort's a fantastic character, sorry, you know who. But it's just nice. It feels like a bit of a change. It's slightly different to the rest of them. It's just a lighter story. They're still kind of kids rather than young people fighting for their lives. Question number 2. What is your favourite film of the series? Now again, for me this one's pretty easy, and that's Order of the Phoenix. And I've got really happy memories of going to see it because I was doing Camp America at the time, so we waved the kids off on the Friday night and then went out to see it. And then at the end got really excited because we worked out that was also the night the very last ever book was going to come out. So we went along and bought it. But even aside from that, it's still the best film by quite a long way. Visually, it's really fantastic. I think the cutaways of the Daily Prophet headlines are just really clever, and the casting is superb, especially Umbridge. She's such a great villain, and seeing Helena Bonham Carter starting her stuff for the first time as Bellatrix is really great too. But it just yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think that Goblet of Fire is also a really good film. It's got a really great boarding school story feel and some brilliant set pieces. Like both of those films, I think they work in a way that the early films by Chris Columbus just never did. And even Prisoner of Azkaban, which visually is a lovely film, it has so much cut out of it that it just doesn't make that much sense. Yeah, it's a shame. But and then I think the Half-Blood Prince felt a bit like it went a bit fluffy again. So, Order of the Phoenix, definitely, by quite a long way. Question number 3. What is your least favourite book in the series? Order of the Phoenix again. It's too long. There's so many chunks that should have been trimmed out of it, and it's too much caps lock Harry. And I get, he's going through anguish, he's having a tough time, but he comes across as a bit of a spoiled brat. And don't get me wrong, the book has lots of redeeming features. I mean, that's why it made such a good film. Umbridge is a great villain. It brings in Lena Lovegood. It's all good. No, it's not all good, but you get my point. But the film tidies things up because the book didn't feel quite finished, and I don't blame J.K. Rowling for that. But I think she was hurried into publishing. Question number 4: which parts of the book made you cry? I don't tend to cry that much at books. I mean, I get a bit fuzzy, but I definitely wouldn't be outright weeping. I remember that the part in Prisoner of Azkaban when Harry's broomstick hits the Whomping Willow, that seemed very, very sad. It's that line, Harry's faithful but finally defeated broomstick, and there's something about it that really kind of reinforced the fact that he was this little orphan boy who'd really loved his broomstick, and this really mean tree destroyed it. Yeah, it was sad. The other bit, when Harry goes for a walk in the Forbidden Forest in the final book, you know what I mean? I feel like if I have to tag spoilers at this point, you can't be that big of a fan, but I'll take no risks, so no more can be said. The corresponding moment in the film, that really got me. Like, I actually did snivel at that, because it's the bit when Harry sees Lily and says, how long have you been here? And she says, we never left. And it's just tears. Here's death is such a big theme of the books, and my own grandfather died about a year after the last book came out, and there's some of J.K. Rowling's words on the subject that are really held true for me, and they do remain in the mind. Question number 5. Which character would you most like to hook up with? I first read these books when I was 10. That kind of thing was just so not on my radar. I mean, I remember being really surprised in Goblet of Fire when the sexual tension between Ron and Hermione became more obvious. If I have to answer, I'll say that it would be really nice to be part of the Weasley family, and the only member who isn't dead or taken is Charlie, so I'll pick him. Question number 6. Who is your favourite character? Luna Lovegood. Easy. I mean, people always used to think that I'd pick Hermione or want to be Hermione, and while it's true that I do recognise a lot of her more maddening traits, I just have such fondness for Luna. I mean, yeah, just the way she's such a dreamer, that reminds me a lot of myself growing up. Plus, I do think she's really brave. She handles herself brilliantly when she's stuck in the cellar at Malfoy Manor. And also, I really liked the way when Harry asked her to Slughorn's Christmas party as a friend, she got it. She just got it, you know, she completely understood, and that's because behind all the chat about the Nargles and the Crunklehorn Snorker, it's been a while since I last read it, I can't remember what they were called, but, you know, but behind all the stuff that she talked about, she's a sensible girl. And I think that she's probably one of the only characters who will be really interesting in a spin-off. And I don't mean fan fiction, I mean I think that there's still a bit of a story to tell there about what became of Luna after this series ended. Question number 7. What would your Patronus be? I like the idea of a Patronus, kind of like a guardian angel, but if I could, I have to admit I'd rather have a demon from the world of Philip Pullman's Dark Materials. So that's Daemon, not a devil. Because the demon in that universe, it's the exteriorization of your soul in animal form. So it's very similar to the idea of a Patronus, but it's around all the time. But as for what form it would take, I don't know, I find that really hard to pick. I mean, maybe a bear, because I wanted to be one of those when I was growing up. Question number 8. Which Deathly Hallow would you most want to have? This is a bit of a strange question, because surely we're all supposed to say the cloak. I mean, the wand causes nothing but trouble. The stone calls back those who have earned their rest. But the cloak just keeps you safe until the time comes to meet death as an equal. So, the cloak. Plus, I've always kind of had a bit of a dream about going to visit like lots of museums after hours when there aren't any crowds. I know that's really geeky, but I just think it would be nice. And I'm assuming, of course, that my cloak wouldn't set off any motion detectors. But as a complete non sequitur, does anyone remember Bernard's watch, the programme on CITV from the 1990s? Because that watch could freeze time. So I'd pick that over anything, given that Dumbledore's army already destroyed all of the time turners in the Ministry of Magic. That's my actual pick, but otherwise, the cloak. Question number 9. Which Hogwarts house would you want to be in? I've crunched the data on this one. I took the test on Pottermore several years ago, and I was sorted into Hufflepuff. Now, unlike Draco Malfoy and company, I'm completely fine with that. I've heard the David Mitchell sketch on Welcome to Hufflepuff, and I know that some of the implications aren't terrific, but personally, I think that the qualities of loyalty, hard work, and friendship are really brilliant, and they suit me perfectly, so I'm, absolutely 100% fine with that decision. Plus, I mean, I think that the girls in Gryffindor, apart from Hermione and possibly Ginny, sound absolutely ghastly. No way would I get on with Lavender Brown. And the girls in Ravenclaw seem to be responsible for stealing Luna's belongings, and no way would I fit in with the Slytherins, so it's Hufflepuff all the way. Go Badgers! Question number 10. Which member of the cast would you most like to meet? I think more than anyone I'd like to meet J.K. Rowling. I think she's fascinating, but if it has to be a member of the cast, probably not Emma Watson, because although I really respect everything she's done with her He for She movement, a friend of mine had to organise a church service a couple of years ago that Emma Watson attended and apparently behaved very poorly during, that she was quite rude. So, I mean, Dan Radcliffe comes across very well on chat shows, but I think really I'd prefer to meet maybe either Helena Bonham Carter or Dame Maggie Smith, because I'm familiar with their work outside of Harry Potter. Plus, I still think it's really impressive that Dame Maggie Smith kept on working, even when she was going through cancer, because she didn't want to disappoint the fans. So I think, yeah, I'll pick her. Question 11. Have you ever played any video games to do with the series? Yes. I owned the Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets game for PlayStation 1. It was alright. Not the best game ever. It was alright. Question number 12. Which Quidditch position do you think you could play? I'm with Hermione on this one in that I'm not a big fan. I don't think it's great for the inter-house relations. But if I had to, and bearing in mind I have no hand-eye coordination whatsoever, I think being a beater seems like quite good stress relief, you know, pounding the budgers. I don't know how good I'd be at it, given my strike rate with rounders, but I'm willing to give it a try. Question 13. Were you happy with the ending? On the whole, yes, apart from the epilogue, because I don't think it fitted in particularly well. Like, it had quite clearly been written quite a long time before, and it sort of implied that Ron had learnt nothing, like the way he was making faces about seeing Malfoy and pretending to Hermione that he passed his driving test under his own steam. I think he learnt a lot, so it doesn't seem to fit in very well. Like, I like the final battle. I like the symmetry of how Harry was able to defeat you-know-who. I really liked Mrs. Weasley's, moment. And yeah, on the whole, apart from the epilogue, I was fine with it. Question 14. What does Harry Potter mean to you? Well, I was watching the film Boyhood last year, which was filmed over 12 years about the same young boy's life, and it really struck me how Harry Potter kept cropping up as a cultural reference in Mason's childhood, and it really brought it home. It was such a landmark thing whenever a new book came out or a new film or whatever. It was just huge. Yeah, for me personally, I was a really big fan. But again, I wasn't as big of a fan as other people thought I was. Like, I loved the books, loved the films. But I also loved other books and other films, and I used to get really annoyed whenever people used to act like I was some kind of obsessive. Yeah. I mean, for me now, what I love about the books is the recurrent message about kindness and just the very gentle but very positive messages about death and the possibility of an afterlife. I do think that there's a lot going on there, and it's just really lovely. Plus, I think they're very witty and very humorous. I think J.K. Rowling is a wonderful writer. I mean, I've also read her Cormoran Strike series, and that's great fun too. I think she's much better than she gets credit for. And when people act like it's some kind of a fluke because the books are so successful, I disagree. I think they're just really good. I mean, I think what I really enjoyed most, though, about at the time when I was reading them was the whole puzzle factor. Like, I loved trying to puzzle out, what did this character mean, what did this name here, what was that all about, like, what was going to happen next. And when I started reading Game of Thrones a couple of years ago, I realised that the same kind of theorising, who are Jon Snow's parents, etc., that's the same kind of fun that I hadn't had since I read Harry Potter. They were just really, really good. Could I live without Harry Potter? Yes, of course I could, but I'm really glad I don't have to. And I'm also really glad that I read the books at a time when I did, like the whole anticipation of the next book. It was just great fun. So, yeah, I'm a big fan, and this has been a really good fun video to shoot. It's taken a little while, and I think it is quite long now, but hopefully I'll be booktubing again before too long, and thank you for watching.